Leo, radiant soul of the Zodiac, something extraordinary is happening and it's unfolding for you. A wave of divine luck is on its way. And when it arrives, it will hit deeper than you imagine, not just in your outer life, but in the very core of your being. On July 15th, a cosmic current is preparing to sweep into your life with such precision, such emotional truth, that it may bring you to tears, not from sorrow, but from the awe of feeling remembered by the universe. You are not here by accident. You didn't click this video out of curiosity or routine. You were pulled here. Something in your higher self aligned with this exact moment and with this exact message. Maybe you felt it too, a quiet stirring, a dream you couldn't explain, a feeling that your soul is ready for something more even if you can't yet name what it is. And today, you'll learn why. This is eternal mindfulness, and I am honored to guide you through this moment not as a guru, but as someone who has walked through the same fires you've walked through. As someone who reads the stars not only with ancient knowledge but with lived experience. As someone in the top 0.1% of the field of astrology, tarot, energetic healing, and therapeutic manifestation, I don't offer you predictions, I offer you remembrance. Because Leo, whether you felt powerful or powerless lately, you are the storm that clears the path. And now, the energy of strength, the Emperor, and the Chariot, 3 tarot archetypes tied directly to your cosmic identity, are rising around you. That's not poetry. That's energetic truth. You've carried the weight of your world for so long. You've been strong for others. Brave for those who couldn't be. But now, for once, the universe is turning its face toward you. And the light that shines in your direction on this sacred day isn't asking for anything, it's giving. It's returning an old dream. It's awakening something you thought had died. It's reminding you that you were never forgotten. Maybe it's a message from someone you haven't heard from in years. Maybe it's money showing up exactly when you need it. Maybe it's a sacred moment of clarity that hits you in the middle of the night. Whatever it is, it's coming. And it's real. But here's the catch: you must open yourself to receive it. You must be willing to listen, not just with your ears, but with your energy. That's what this reading is about. This isn't fortune telling. This is alignment. Empowerment. Destiny. So I ask you now, Leo, with all the love in my heart, what brought you here today? What sign, dream, or pull guided you to this message? Leave a comment below to confirm your cosmic alignment. Let me know you're here. Let the universe hear your yes. And before we dive deeper, allow me to thank you truly for your presence, for your energy, for every like, every share, every subscription that brings you closer to the eternal mindfulness family. Your support allows us to continue delivering soul-shifting guidance to those who are ready, to those who are chosen. And trust me, Leo, you're going to want to stay with me until the very end of this video. Because what the stars are revealing next is nothing short of breathtaking. Let's begin. When the Emperor card appears in a Leo reading, it does more than speak to your natural fire and leadership. It opens a deeper inquiry, one that goes beyond control and discipline. The Emperor governs structure, sovereignty, and authority, yes. But in the quiet space beneath all that command lies a more tender truth. Even the strongest among us sometimes forget how to receive. And that, Leo, is the very lesson now rising for you through the tides of cosmic timing. Over the past few months, you may have found yourself carrying not only your own responsibilities, but the weight of others' expectations too. It's what you do best: show up, lead, shield. But there's a point at which leadership becomes loneliness, and resilience begins to silence your softer needs. You've been strong for everyone else, holding the line when others faltered, maintaining composure while the world around you shifted. But now, as the sun inches closer to your sign and prepares to activate the sacred corridor of the Lion's Gate, something within you whispers, "And what about me?" This is not selfishness. This is not weakness. This is remembrance. The cosmic current of July 15th is about restoration, and not in the surface-level sense. This is energetic restoration. The kind that asks you to pause, soften, and lay down the armor you've worn so long it feels like skin. You don't have to lead the way right now. You don't have to hold the torch for everyone else. You are being asked to come home to yourself not as a commander, but as a child of the cosmos, worthy of being seen, held, and filled. The transition of the sun into Leo marks what ancient wisdom calls the return to center. It is when the light that illuminates the world begins to illuminate you from within. It is not accidental that this happens just as the Lion's Gate portal starts to activate. These days leading up to August 8th are a sacred preparation, a cleansing, a peeling back of what is no longer aligned with your spirit's evolution. To carry burdens is one thing, to carry them mindfully is another. What this moment invites you to explore is the subtle art of surrender, not as giving up, but as allowing space. Think of it like this: a clenched fist can hold no gift. The universe wants to hand you something, Leo, an opportunity, a miracle, maybe even a reunion, but if your energy is consumed by control, tension, and over-identification with being the strong one, you might miss it. In teachings of clarity and mindfulness, there's a saying, when you let go of striving, wisdom appears. That's what this cycle is asking of you. Can you release your grip long enough for grace to find you? Astrologically, this is a potent shift. You're exiting your 12th solar house, see a realm of release, karma, and spiritual endings, and stepping into the first house of rebirth and self-definition. It is the astrological equivalent of the breath before awakening, the quiet before emergence. And yes, the discomfort of letting go may echo like grief. But what you're mourning isn't power, it's the illusion that power only exists when you're in control. Let that go. Let yourself remember who you were before the world told you what strength must look like. Because the truth is, Leo, real strength is quiet. It's in your ability to feel everything and still choose openness. It's in your willingness to take the throne of your life, not to dominate it, but to bless it. And now, as the stars align and the Lion's Gate begins to shimmer on the horizon, you are being invited to walk through a door that only opens when you stop pushing. This is your moment. Not to prove but to allow. When the Strength card rises in a reading especially for you, Leo, it's more than just a reminder of your power. It is a mirror, quietly asking, what does power mean to you now? You see, true strength is not loud. It is not the roar that silences a room. It is the unwavering stillness you maintain when life storms around you. It is the soft but unshakable courage to let go, not because you've lost the will to hold on, but because you've finally outgrown the weight. Many of you have been conditioned to believe that strength is measured by how tightly you can grip what's slipping away. Whether it's a relationship that no longer nurtures you, a job that drains your light, or a version of yourself that fit an older chapter you may still be holding on out of fear. Fear of emptiness. Fear of not being chosen. Fear of stepping into the unknown with no guarantees. But let me gently ask you this. What if the space you're afraid to create is the very room needed for the new version of you to arrive? Energetically, this moment in your journey calls for release. Not collapse, not retreat, but intentional letting go. In the practice of mindful living, there's a principle that says we suffer not because things change, but because we resist their changing. Imagine trying to stop the ocean from receding, or clutching at clouds to keep their form. The moment we try to possess something meant to flow, we create tension. And from that tension, pain is born not because of loss, but because of resistance to the natural unfolding. You are now in a cosmic season where letting go is not only wise, it is sacred. The alignment of the Strength card, your astrological ruler, the sun moving into your sign, and the approach of the Lion's Gate portal is not a coincidence. This is your invitation to shed gently, mindfully, and without blame. In many teachings of conscious self-awareness, the lesson is clear. Clinging creates craving, release births peace. The tighter we hold, the more we fear. But the more we allow, the more we remember, we are not our roles, our outcomes, or even our relationships. We are the awareness behind it all, the silent witness who can let go and remain whole. For you, Leo, this is deeply personal. Your nature is fiery, loyal, fierce in your love. But the path ahead asks for a subtler bravery, the bravery to not react, to not chase, to not demand, but instead to receive. This is strength not as dominance, but as quiet alignment. Think of the lion not in battle, but at rest. Not because it has no enemies, but because it knows its power doesn't come from force, it comes from presence. That is who you are becoming now. Not a conqueror, but a calm force of knowing. And in that knowing, you can finally allow what has run its course to fall away, not in anger, but in grace. If your heart is whispering that it's time to release something, listen. Whether it's an attachment, an old story, or the need to be right, let this be the moment you choose ease over control. That is not weakness. That is evolution. So if this resonates, I invite you to write it in the comments below. I release to grow stronger. Let this be your affirmation. Not to me, not to the algorithm, but to the part of yourself that's been waiting to be heard. You don't need to fight anymore, Leo. Your strength is not in your roar today, it's in your stillness. And from that stillness, a new version of you is ready to rise. When the Chariot appears in your reading, especially now as we move through this energetic gateway surrounding July 15th, it is not just a symbol of movement or momentum, it's a declaration from the cosmos that the path ahead is not only opening, but accelerating. But here's what most people forget: the Chariot does not promise a clear road. It promises direction. It promises that despite uncertainty, you are being moved intentionally, precisely, and sometimes abruptly towards something you may not have been ready to ask for, but your soul is deeply prepared to receive. The beauty of the Chariot is in its paradox. It looks like willpower, but it's really alignment. It feels like speed, but it's born from stillness. You don't steer this vehicle with force. You guide it with clarity. And that clarity comes not from logic or control, but from being attuned to the signs you are constantly receiving. The unexpected message, the unexplainable dream, the synchronicity that defies reason. These are not interruptions. These are coordinates. And right now, those coordinates are being guided by Jupiter as it rises out of its combustion, finally ready to bestow blessings without interference. Combustion, in astrological language, is when a planet is too close to the sun to function in its full power. Its gifts are hidden, muted, as if temporarily burned out. But now, Jupiter, the planet of luck, wisdom, expansion, is stepping back into its strength. And that means you are about to experience a restoration of flow in areas you thought were lost: money, love, faith, and confidence. But here's the deeper truth: this restoration doesn't come because you tried harder. It comes because you let go enough to be redirected. That's what the Chariot asks of you. To release the illusion of needing all the answers, and instead trust the rhythm of movement itself. In one teaching, there's a story of a person crossing a raging river not by fighting the current, but by surrendering to its pulse, using each wave as a guide. That's what the next phase of your journey is calling for. Not resistance. Not rigidity. But responsiveness. And let's talk about the moment itself. July 15. This day is no ordinary calendar date. Energetically, it falls within the threshold of the Lion's Gate corridor, and with Jupiter regaining strength, the frequency around you becomes magnified. Think of it as a magnifying glass held over your heart's desires. Anything rooted in authenticity will burn brighter. And anything built on fear may feel like it's dissolving. Neither is bad. Both are preparation. This is why the number 777 surrounds you now, not as decoration, but as instruction. In numerology, 777 is a number of spiritual completion, divine protection, and sacred endings that usher in higher purpose. It's often seen when you're at the edge of a breakthrough, but you're still doubting whether it's real. So if you've seen this number lately, or if this is your first time hearing it, let it settle into your awareness. Let it be a whisper that you are not off track, you are mid-transformation. The Chariot doesn't ask you to control the outcome. It asks you to be brave enough to move, even if your hands are shaking. And sometimes, that movement begins with something as simple as a shift in thought, a yes instead of a maybe, a release instead of a grasp, a breath instead of a bracing. If a message finds you on this day, read between the lines. If an opportunity shows up when you've stopped expecting, pause and listen. If a dream wakes you with emotion so strong you can't shake it, and let it speak. Because in that moment, you're not imagining things. You're receiving a new map. And even if the terrain is unfamiliar, know this: the vehicle that carries you now is designed for elevation. Trust its course. It already knows the way. Sometimes healing doesn't arrive as a grand event. Sometimes it comes quietly, disguised as a moment you never expected to revisit a conversation, a name that reappears, or the subtle ache of remembering someone who once felt like home. And then, unexpectedly, you see them. Or hear from them. Or sense them so vividly it feels as if they've stepped back into your reality. But the magic is not in their return. The transformation is in you. Because when they reappear, something inside you remains still clear, grounded, and no longer seeking. This is the kind of encounter the Chariot leads you to. Not a journey towards someone else, but toward the part of yourself that needed to see who you've become. What you may experience around this time is not a reunion in the traditional sense. but a divine reflection. A mirror held up not to them but to your evolution. And the person you once loved or chased or waited for is now standing in the light of your becoming. They are not the closure. You are. There is a quiet kind of strength in realizing you don't need what you once thought you couldn't live without. It doesn't come from bitterness or pride, it comes from clarity. The clarity that comes after you've sat with your grief, touched your longing, and chosen to stay. Not with them, but with yourself. In certain teachings of deep inner mastery, there is a simple idea, that the ones who return often come back not for a second chance, but as a final lesson. A symbol that your cycle has completed. That your soul has done its work. This kind of healing doesn't shout. It doesn't need to be processed through hours of explanation. It happens in a single breath the moment you realize you've changed so much, you no longer fit into the old dynamic. You can look at the person without need or anger. You can feel tenderness without attachment. That's not detachment, that's maturity of the heart. And sometimes, that quiet realization is so pure, so freeing, so honest it brings tears to your eyes. Because you're not crying for what you lost. You're crying for what you finally reclaimed, yourself. What often keeps us trapped in old bonds is the belief that love must always remain in its original form. But love evolves, just as you do. And sometimes, loving someone deeply in the past was part of your becoming. They showed you something about desire, about fear, about your own capacity to give. And now, in this sacred return, they show you something else, that you no longer need them to access that love. Because it lives in you now. As the planetary energies shift and inner clarity sharpens, this encounter, whether literal or symbolic, becomes a kind of graduation. And just like a student who no longer needs the teacher, your release becomes an act of reverence. Not rejection. Not resentment. Just gentle release. And in that release, a new type of freedom is born. If your heart is tender during this time, honor it. If old memories rise up, let them. You're not being tested. You're being invited to see yourself as you are now. To recognize that you are the person you've been waiting for. The one who chooses themselves. The one who no longer abandons their own truth for the comfort of old patterns. That is the deepest act of forgiveness, not just toward them, but toward yourself for the years you stayed small, silent, or afraid to outgrow what no longer fit. You don't need them to stay. You only needed them to remind you of how far you've come. And that realization, Leo, is more than healing. It's liberation. Luck, as most people understand it, is often mistaken for chance. A fortunate coincidence. A sudden blessing. But true luck, sustainable, aligned, life-changing luck, has very little to do with waiting for the right moment. It has everything to do with meeting that moment prepared. And this is exactly what you, Leo, are being guided toward now. The stars may align. Jupiter may rise. The lion's gate may open. But unless your hands are open to receive, the energy will pass through like wind on a locked door. There's a quiet but radical truth here: freedom does not arrive when conditions are perfect. It arrives the moment you choose differently. The moment you recognize that the cage was never the world, it was the decision to delay your own power. The heaviness you've carried? The confusion around love or money? the feeling of waiting for something to shift. All of that begins to dissolve the moment you step into aligned action. Not action out of panic or pressure, but the kind of action that comes from stillness. From intention. And what does that look like in practice? It starts with listening. Not just to readings or messages, but to your own body, your own energy. If your nervous system has been overstimulated lately, trouble sleeping, restlessness, emotional fatigue, your first act of alignment is to soothe the internal fire. A warm bath with magnesium salt, a cup of calming tea like chamomile or passion flower, even 10 minutes of breath work before bed, these are not small steps. They are energetic invitations. When your body feels safe, your spirit becomes more available to guidance. Financially, the energy around you is asking for discipline but not restriction. This is not the time to clamp down in fear, but to organize with clarity. Divide your income into sacred categories: stability, expansion, and joy. When you spend with intention, you anchor trust into your relationship with abundance. You're telling the universe, I am a clear channel. I honor what flows through me. In career and purpose, the invitation is gentle but firm. If something is no longer nourishing you, it is not weakness to let go. The mind may fear uncertainty, but the heart always recognizes when it's being slowly starved. Even if you can't make a dramatic leap just yet, begin preparing. Update your vision. Speak your desires aloud. Align your daily efforts with where you want to go, not where you've been surviving. In matters of the heart, clarity is the highest form of love. No one can read your mind. If you've been hoping someone will just get it, pause and ask, have I truly expressed what I need? Vulnerability is not exposure, it's liberation. When you speak truthfully, you stop performing in love and begin participating in it. You shift from guessing to co-creating. And today, July 15th, your lucky color is bronze gold. Not just a hue, but a frequency. Bronze gold radiates power and patience, inner royalty without the need to dominate. It asks you to lead with quiet confidence, to be loyal to your truth, even if it makes others uncomfortable. When you wear this color or visualize its glow, you're not just attracting luck. You're becoming the embodiment of readiness. Everything happening around you now is a preparation. The magic doesn't just appear, it arrives when you begin to act like you deserve it. So drink the tea. Set the boundary. Make the plan. Speak the truth. Because the energy of this moment is not passive. It is waiting for your yes. And that yes, Leo, doesn't have to be loud. It just has to be real. Sometimes we spend so long trying to earn our place, to justify our value, to chase love, success, or claridias if we have to prove ourselves worthy of being guided, blessed, or chosen. But Leo, here's what I want you to take away from everything we've explored today. You were never forgotten. You were never behind. You were always on the path, even when it felt like you were lost. And this moment, this exact alignment of energy, clarity, and inner readiness is not random. It's a response. A confirmation that the universe has been listening to your heart all along, even in the silence. What if the thing you thought you lost wasn't lost, but only delayed until you were strong enough to hold it with grace? What if every closed door wasn't rejection, but redirection? What if this right here, right now is the first time you're truly ready to receive, not from desperation, but from alignment. July 15th isn't just a date on the calendar. It's a frequency. A vibration that brings you face to face with the version of yourself that has always been waiting in the wings. The version of you that doesn't ask for permission to shine. That no longer doubts their timing. That no longer holds back their truth to keep others comfortable. This is your return not to who you were, but to who you were always becoming. And now, the invitation is yours to accept. Will you take action? Will you trust the nudge, follow the insight, speak the truth, take the leap? Will you give yourself permission to be free? Not someday, today. You don't need to control every outcome. You only need to choose yourself. Over and over, with tenderness, with strength, with the kind of presence that says, I'm no longer waiting for the world to recognize me. I already do. So take a deep breath with me. Place a hand over your heart. And ask yourself, what am I ready to receive? What am I ready to release? Who am I ready to become now that I remember I don't have to carry the past into the future? This isn't the end of a reading. This is the beginning of your realignment. The start of a new way of listening to your own wisdom. And if any part of this message resonated with you, if your body softened or your spirit felt seen, then I invite you to anchor your energy by commenting below. I am ready to receive what's meant for me. Your voice matters. Your intention matters. And your presence here on this channel, in this momentous sign of your own awakening. Thank you from the depths of my soul for choosing to spend this time with me. Every like, every comment, every share, every subscription doesn't just support eternal mindfulness, it helps us reach more people who are seeking the same light, the same truth, the same inner home. I see you. I honor your journey. And I trust that what's meant for you will never require you to shrink in order to hold it. So stay until the very end of your becoming. Because what's coming next will be more than you ever dreamed. And you won't be alone in receiving it. I'll be right here with you. Always.